Good morning, everyone. This is Kathy Mason from MasonWorks Marketing here on Conscious Business Zone with my friend Scott Olsen. Hi, Scott.
Hey, nice to see you, Kathy.
Yes,
Good to be with
I'm
you.
so excited to learn from you. There's so much wonderful information that you have, and I hope my questions aren't um, silly, but you are a
Oh,
professor, so you've heard it all,
they,
right?
all questions are good questions.
Yeah, that's I've heard that, but I've been embarrassed before by
Oh
myself.
no.
But anyway, but you have 32 years of being a professor. So for people that don't know Scott, what we're going to talk about today is he is a resource for all of us to find and uncover the mystery that we live in. And the mystery we're going to talk about is of equilibrium. And part of that's going to come through his study of, and he'll relate a little bit more about the golden section. And also, he's going to talk about the grand unification of the sciences, arts, and consciousness. And so the pathways that he's going to help connect in your brain, hopefully, are how to integrate the wondrous divine environment that we live in through math, through Plato, through spirituality and the sciences, which is, I think, the journey that everyone's excited to be on right now, where the being a bridge from science to spirituality and remarrying them back, right?
Mm,
So,
yes.
Scott, tell us about how you got started in all of this. I mean, your journey has to be, you must have had a light bulb come on at one point.
Yeah, and it is a little bit strange because it really begins when I'm, believe it or not, 2 days old, when my parents are bringing me home from the hospital, their newborn, and I am in an unbelievable state of full consciousness, full awareness, hovering above my father's church, watching below the whole scene unfold as they carry me from this black vehicle, and I could tell colors. And by the way, I could see in multiple directions. And much of this, what I'm saying now, is recapitulations, events that happened later that kind of re-triggered the memories, so it's not like I'm 2 weeks old and I remember all of this stuff and I can verbalize it. But I'm hovering above the church, watching them carry me from the car to the parsonage. And I say to myself, oh no, here we go again. And as they get to the doorway, and this is very significant, doorways, thresholds, as they get to the doorway, I begin to sink and I black out. And then my memories from that point on are early memories of seeing my mother's face as I'm lying on my back, I'm looking up, um, and so forth. But there are a series of events that follow that that also are triggering memories of what's going on. And one of the crucial things is somewhere in there, there is numbers and math, there's Plato, and there's beauty and wisdom. It's very clear that there's something that I'm supposed to be doing with this. But that's the start. And then there's a series of events. If you want me to keep going, I will. Um, so then when I'm 4 years old, I go out into the backyard and it must be like around the summer solstice. The sun is just absolutely pouring down. I lay on my stomach. My father's in the background, and I lay on my stomach on a stone, and I get rejuvenated or juvenated, whatever the word is. A transformative experience occurs. Energy pouring through me just as a little toddler. They're laying on this rock. It was incredible. And then subsequent to that, I'm 5 years old. My parents are going off to a meeting somewhere, and I want to go, and they have my favorite babysitter, but that's no good. So I sneak out into the garage, and I'm going to lay down in the back of the car on the floor. I've got it all figured out in my head. They won't be able to see me, and then I'll pop up halfway to the destination. Well, I hear the screen doors slam, and I figure, well, I got to hide. Well, where are you to hide? Hide in front of the car. And he gets in the car. Well, I don't want to be seen. I grab onto the front bumper, and it's a long driveway. And so I am dragged out on the toes of my shoes, giggling, having a good old time on this fun ride, but without thinking what happens, at the end of the driveway when he backs up out and goes forward, and I'm pulled under the car, and I barely survive because the one tire mark is on the side of my head, and I barely escape where the tailpipe scrapes my head slightly, but I fumble under there. And each of these events, there's something about them that is re-triggering. There's something that's reassociating with that initial birth or time home when they brought me home from the hospital. So then I must be 6, and I have my tonsils out. My brother comes up to me, Ted, and he shakes my hand, saying, "Nice knowing you." And so I am hyper alert, and my little sister, she goes in first before me. But the trouble is they don't keep me from seeing her. She's had her tonsils out. There's blood all over the pillow. She's laying there. She looks like she's dead. And now they're wheeling me in for the next job. And I'm holding my mother's hand. And I remember her telling me that I told her I'm feeling sleepy. Or I'm feeling tired. And she said my words, "I'm feeling tired." But they gave me ether, and it was almost identical to the feeling that I had when I was up above the church and sank. The blackout experience was virtually identical. So again, there's recapitulation in a series of experiences like this. Then when I'm very young, I remember always 11 in particular. One day I'm outside and I'm looking up and I'm realizing this is not the complete picture. There's something wrong here. There's so much more to this, and why can't I get to it? And there are other experiences as well. And one of the big ones probably that really triggered me into the beauty and wisdom of this world was I was given a book, maybe the time I was run over by the car, which was my fault, by the way. That was not my father's fault. I need to make that clear. I was given a book on horses, and it was the absolute stunning beauty of the physical structure, the magnificence of the bodies of these horses that just literally blew me away. And I was tuned into nature. I began to look to nature, not just the animals, but the flora as well as the fauna, and became absorbed in the numbers and the patterns of nature as we went on. And then it goes into, you can go further into another major event that occurred was when I was at the University of Minnesota, and I was actually doing a course. I was studying Mulford Q. Sibley, a fairly well-known political scientist who had an experience with his wife, I believe, who had passed, and there was some channeling going on. He was very interested in what's going on the other side. And so 7 of us were selected to do a course. They knew of me because I was already very involved in psi phenomena, paranormal phenomena. That also ran through my childhood. Anything deeply esoteric or paranormal was always of interest. And so I compared transcendental meditation with intense dharana, one-pointed concentration, pranayama, pratyahara, so rhythmic breathing and sensory withdrawal. We would use a tape recorder to do self-hypnosis and then program myself. I was also a bodybuilder, so I was training myself to lift heavier weights, etc., and visualizing, winning the contest, etc., which actually worked. And I was using incense, frankincense and myrrh incense. I was using a brainwave synchronizer, strobe light, which would map to the brain waves, and I could slow it down and speed it up. And I had this big moire pattern on the wall, like it reminded me of magnetic image, magnetism at the poles. And I would use that with the crystal ball, which was actually a glass ball with a, a little bubble in the center. And with the candle flames going and the moire pattern in the background and strobe lights and all of this stuff going on, I was able to focus, and I began to realize that the moire pattern would be in the bubble in the center of that crystal ball, and I began to use my visualization, and I realized the brow center was opening, and I could control the candle flames and the incense, etc., all that kind of stuff. So it was developing this ability, psychokinetic ability, and I wanted to have out-of-body experiences. I knew I should be able to go through the wall. I'd done all the research, all the study. I was preparing for that. Nothing but this nice concentration. So one day, I've just eaten my lunch at Middlebrook Hall, 14-story dormitory. I'm on the 7th floor. So I come up to my dorm room, I lay down, I'm going to relax like I've learned to relax. I put my body to rest almost like a wet dish rag. That was how I would visualize this initial stages of self-hypnosis. And my body went to sleep, but my mind remained alert. And I had a towel over my eyes. Next thing I knew, I could see the stucco in the ceiling, even though my eyes were covered. I also could see, much like that first experience as a perinatal experience, I could see in multiple directions. I could see the back, I could see the sides, and then it became a bit tube-like, and there were these black light posters that I had lining the walls. And so I start moving up and out, and there's the big moire pattern in the distance. And as I float towards it, I start to wonder, well, no, wait a minute. We know this is absolutely real. Maybe we should just go a little ways this time. Wait a minute. If I get through the wall, are they going to find me 7 stories down, splattered on the cement? Will I be able to get back through the wall? Wait a minute. Who's doing this? Is something trying to take over my body? And so I had this big easel, and I'm caught on my shoulder blade on the easel, or what would be the same, because I felt physical as I floated through that air, and I caught on that, and then suddenly something that happened again and again subsequently. If the phone would ring and I'm out of the body, or something happened, I would snap back into the body, much like a rubber band back into it. But the good part of that was I developed the ability to have out-of-body experiences basically at will. However, so I could get out. I go through a little technique. I had the little ritual. It worked. But because I had locked it at the wall, I always had difficulties initially getting through the wall. Eventually that happened, but it's like self-hypnosis. You have to be so careful. Auto-suggestions, you have to program everything positive. If you've got something in there fearful or negative, it can be a problem. And so I was in that kind of state when that happened. But that led me on a path. I got deeper and deeper into the esoteric. I meet Douglas Baker at a certain point here in the early 70s. I am just so overwhelmed by Douglas Baker, the esotericist, occultist, an incredible genius of a mind, written over 100 books in the esoteric, deeply involved in the esoteric astrology, but out-of-body experiences, reincarnation, karma, all of those things. He had it, having studied Blavatsky, Bailey, Rudolf Steiner, Gurdjieff, Spence. All of the different systems were combined in this gentleman's noggin there. And so I did an interview with him, and he immediately asked if I wanted to be his protege. So something triggered, possibly partly because I had that ability to do out-of-body experiences, but maybe there's much more going on there because I was already delving in deeply into the esoteric, and he realized it. And so I was invited to London to become his protege. Long story short, there I ended up meeting a lady that I got engaged to and married to. So that prolonged, or I didn't go to London at that time, stayed in the States, but built this wonderful relationship with Douglas Baker, which then persisted. I should probably mention um, that I'm getting deeply into numbers already now when I'm at the University of Minnesota. And when I graduate in 1975, he invites me to come do research for him in London. And Dan Pedo, the geometer who turned me on to the golden section, I'd already known about it. I kind of had skipped over here a little bit. When I was at the University of Minnesota, I was invited to be in the honors program by Dan Pedo, an artist and a geometer who knew the golden section, wrote books on art and mathematics. And so he kind of took me under his wing, and I did a paper on Platonic aesthetics. That was my summa cum laude thesis, was Platonic aesthetics, which was all golden section related, all of this stuff. So then I'm invited to go to England and I'm accepted at Birkbeck College, University of London, to do my master's degree on Plato, Aristotle, and philosophy of science. The beauty about Birkbeck was that when I went to London, I was not only doing research for Baker, but I was also studying with David Bohm, the great physicist, incredible genius of a mind. And John Hasted, the head of the physics department, was doing research on psi phenomena. That's what they were doing in the physics department. And because I had started a course at the university, or a club at the University of Minnesota, the ESP Club, uh, Esoteric Science Program, but ESP Club for short, I was doing all this paranormal research. And John Hasted, I introduced myself to him, and he said, "You need to meet David Bohm. You need to study with him. I want you to work on coming up with hypotheses to help explain what we're observing in the lab here. You know, working with Uri Geller. They've got Arthur Koestler, the great writer, coming. I mean, incredible stuff. Stage magicians are invited to try to duplicate what the real psychics are doing. They had Amazing Randy there. Well, Amazing Randy is not so amazing. He turned out to be a complete buffoon. And yes, it's true that sleight of hand magicians are going to try to fake things, but he would not abide by the protocols that everybody who is a subject there had to abide by. They kicked Amazing Randy out, but they had incredible results. And so I also was selected because I had, as I mentioned, started to do a bit of psychokinetic work. I didn't do the research in the lab with them. They gave me a chart recorder, a key connected to a cord, and then from a distance, I would work on that, et cetera, at home where I was staying. But then with David Bohm, that became critical because I was one of only 3 students. And here's where all the physics stuff is coming in. Here I'm the philosophy student studying my Plato and Aristotle, but getting this incredible education from this genius. And then Baker is going into what he called esolepsy, not epilepsy, esolepsy. His term for going into an inner state of retaining awareness, but putting the body to sleep. He called it esolepsy. And he would at night go into these inner states and then work with higher beings and do research. And then he would get all this information out, write it down, and then he'd feed me these notes. I'd go to the British Museum Library, the University of London Library, and do research on the esoteric meaning of the spleen or the disappearance of Percy or of Colonel Fawcett uh, in the rainforest, the esoteric aspects of the Sphinx, all of these esoteric anatomy, all this incredible stuff. Now, I want to say something here because this is important about Baker and going into this esoleptic state of consciousness. When I was on tour with him in 1971, and this is actually another big experience, where I did not end up going to London with him, but I went on his lecture tour, and we started in Detroit, it was in Lansing, then Chicago, straight on to New York, no stop, no sleep, the two of us driving. I was his muscular guy who would load all the books and do all the stuff and the packing, etc. But there's two things that I should mention. One is in Detroit, while I was studying his book on uh, Diary of an Alchemist and focusing on a very interesting image. I was never a student of the IM group, but the image of Saint Germain image was so stunning to me, where there's kind of a three-tiered of the seventh ray individual, ceremonial order, ritual, and magic, the seventh ray, very violet and purplish. I concentrated on this during the night. Then when I went to bed, did the usual thing. I lay down, and remember, I can see the ceiling even though my eyes are covered and closed. Well, I not only saw the ceiling, but I had a being hovering above me, not uh, a human being, a human being with the most powerful eyes I have ever experienced in my life, burning right through me, lifted me on up and out. And that's where I had a really transcendental experience, major experience, where I was taken out, not spontaneously coming out of the body, but taken for a ride. The other point of this journey, though, that I want to mention is when we got to New York, well, there's actually Boston where this occurred. In Boston, they made a mistake and put us in the same room, and I heard him snoring like I hate to say it, like a pig across the room, like that. And I thought, you lying son of a, no, come on, Douglas. So here's what I did. I whispered across the room, just like that. Immediately, he was so pissed off, excuse me, he was really upset with me because I had intervened, but his body was asleep. He would snore, but his mind, he was in the inner worlds at work. So that was one instance where I was able to really justify the fact that his body could be sleeping, but he was really at work all the time. Anyway, that's
I
was a
love
little bit
that.
there.
I love that story. So, okay, I'm going to go back a little bit. So we make sure. So you were mentored by Dr. Douglas Baker, David Bohm, Houston Smith, who we're going to talk about, and Edgar Mitchell.
These were all, yeah. With Edgar, we're very good friends, and we did collaborate. I helped him with things; he helped me. In terms of mentoring, it's Baker would be a mentor to me. Houston Smith, definitely a mentor to me. Bohm, one of my professors, he's the one who read my paper on the collapse of continuous space-time, which actually led me to, at first, do a dissertation, by the way, on precognition in space-time, the logic of discovery, which I changed later because there weren't a lot of jobs in philosophy. So I went to law school, did my law degree, came back, and that's when I did the Pythagorean Plato and the Golden Section, a study in abductive inference. It took me 1 year to crank that baby out, but they now have a rule at the University of Florida that you cannot qualify in, it was all philosophy, but I went from precognition to Pythagorean Plato and the Golden Section. So they now have a rule you can't shift like that. Anyway, they couldn't deny it because it was yeah. But back to Baker and the mentors. Yes. So Edgar Mitchell. Also, we're going to have to put in there Muhammad El-Nashi, who we
Oh,
became very, very close, who was twice nominated for the Nobel Prize in Physics. In fact, he is a co-author with the more recent book that I did, The Grand Unification book.
oh, great. Okay, so I just want to make sure everybody can follow because you spent 32 years teaching philosophy and religion, and you were drawn, and so you have a very deep interest in ancient wisdom traditions and the mysteries involved. Could you talk a little bit about that journey too? Because for you to spend a quarter of your or a third of your life, hopefully, doing that, there must be connect the dots for people from the mathematics to the out of body and esoteric to ancient. Actually, I think those are the truths that will be revealed as we evolve as a species. Is that a lot of the ancient wisdoms were buried or misinterpreted. So would you mind explaining a little bit the reason for the connection?
Sure. So as I'm pursuing my studies at the University of Minnesota, now we're back in my undergraduate days. So I'm attracted then not only to Plato and Aristotle, but also to these esoteric disciplines that are emerging out of my experiences that I'm having with yoga. So yoga became a crucial thing. And then I started to realize, okay, let's figure out what the keys are to nature and to the world. What are the important things? Kundalini became one of them that I realized that was central. Things like pranayama, rhythmic breathing. My asanas were my bodybuilding movements and positionings and all that kind of stuff, but I was using the pranayama with that aspect as well. Then with the studies of Alice Bailey and Blavatsky, Baker helped direct my attention into these more wisdom traditions. I'd already been going there, but then that intensified more and more and more. And so I'm realizing that it's the mysteries that are the key. And then I find out as I'm going through all of this, as Madame Blavatsky, who I take very seriously, she says that in the mysteries, the secrets of proportion are revealed. And the secrets of proportion, the real secrets, have to do with that baby right there, the golden section. That's critical as to how this whole thing works. That's primordial scission we find from the ancient Egyptians. So I'm delving deeper and deeper into not just the phenomena, but also the studies of the yoga, the studies of the esoteric teachings, of the mystery schools, of the Eleusinian mystery. I became a student of the Eleusinian mysteries, the Egyptian mysteries, Samothrakian mysteries, the mysteries in general. And because I was able to select the areas that I wanted to specialize in, comparative religion, comparative mythology. So I'm in the humanities department. I'm doing philosophy, but I'm doing deep kind of esoteric forms of philosophy with Plato in particular and Aristotle. And I become a member. Now we're going to go to my teaching for those 32 years. I become a member of the honors team of professors, and I want to do that. I think that's really great. We get the excellent students who want to learn, and it's a smaller group, and I can do whatever I want. And so basically what I'm doing is I'm taking all these esoteric teachings from Joseph Campbell, Hero's Journey, all of the mythological imagery from the mysteries, and taking the students through this with various forms of readings, and then the art aspect of it. We're given the opportunity to go to the Appleton Museum to teach. And so twice a week, I drive from the college over to this multi-million-dollar beautiful museum, eclectic museum with all of this ancient wisdom already present there. I have my own room. I set it up with all the images from the mystery schools, all of the esoteric stuff. I'll have to show you a picture sometime. You won't believe it. We're covering the back wall. And working with students who, at the end of their exams, for example, we would take out these little kits and they would build geometric Platonic solids and Archimedean solids. And they loved it. And they realized that's how mathematics should be done. And they now find that students and young people and hard to discipline students, unmanageable students, you give them these Platonic and Archimedean solids, and they go into resonance. Kathy, it's all about resonance. And that's where the numbers come in. And it's all about attunement, entrainment. And that's what we're learning. And so all of this thing is combined, all of these things. So the mythology and the religions, by really diving deeply into them. And then, of course, I did the honors versions of the humanities. And so I was able to bring out all of this stuff with various authors throughout the humanities traditions, both Western and the other specialty is the Eastern. The thing that I tried to do is I was steeped in Western and Eastern religions, philosophies, yoga, etc., but we needed the indigenous. And so I made a choice early on. So I'm a little different than some in the sense that entheogens, en within, theo, divine, Genesis, bringing out the divine within, that's a technique that I adopted. And so I admit it to the audience. I'm proud of it, but it's not for everybody. And I don't try to draw people into it and it's not recreational at all. This is very serious business, and it's all about finding your true self. And oftentimes the way to do that is to get rid of all notions of the false self. Probably Buddhism is the closest way to get there through anatta, not self, not this, not that, getting rid of all the false notions. And then the other way is the Hindu way, true, the Atman. You find the Atman is Brahman. But there are two paths up to that mountaintop, and either one will get you there. I mean, there are multiple paths, but those are two kind of basic ways, but they really are flip sides of the same coin, is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. And so I was able to bring this to my students, and when they left my classes, the thing I'm most proud of is in a very conservative community here, they left my religion classes, all my classes, with respect for others and tolerance and understanding that the golden and silver rules run through all of the religions and that we need to get our act together. And it's all interdependent and we need to work with others. And so enough said.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I have, because of my art history background and Italian art, I've had a journey where the journey is really from here to here. And what you're talking about is you found a pathway using mathematics and consciousness studies from here to here. But you can use this language of math and of quantum physics, or because we are in the physical, you can use that to map it out. Correct?
Yes, and along those lines, there's something about the this notion of physical and spiritual. And this is where Plato comes in. And this is where the golden cut comes in. Because the golden cut, what happens is it cuts a magnitude into two parts, but you have the whole and then these two segments. So you have three. and you have an intermediate that bonds together the above and the below. I'm giving you what I think is the great secret right here, right now. So as above, so below, and as below, so above, the Hermetic maxim, but you need an intermediate third factor that bonds the two together. And that naturally happens in the primordial scission. However this universe begins, the ancient Egyptians will call it the primordial scission, the first cut, like a scissors. And in that act, that allows those three, the original and the two parts, to have a kind of a triune relationship of above, below, and middle. And in the middle, it's like the soul, the intermediate, but it's where both are bonded together. They're enfolded. In David Bohm's words, he talks about the implicate order enfolds into the explicate order. And everything becomes holographic because the whole, it fractalizes. So each of the parts are going to retain the information of the whole. But there's this intermediate that bonds them. And that's the key, is the golden mean between the two, the above and the below. So the subject actually is the solution. And what happened was Plato knew this. He had to keep it quiet because it was forbidden. The mysteries forbade you to reveal the big secret, which was this mathematical proportionate secret. Many who went into the mysteries would study the Pythagorean material ahead of time so they'd be prepared. But this revelation was forbidden to be revealed. And that's why Plato, for example, in the Timaeus, he doesn't tell you how to build a dodecahedron, because to build a dodecahedron, you have to have triangles that have the golden mean in it. And they have the golden mean in it. It reveals the secret. Hippasus, the Pythagorean, did reveal it. And the tradition says they put him in a boat into the open sea. He actually probably lost his life as a result. Fortunately, that stuff is passed on down to it. But I guess the point I'm trying to make is this golden mean becomes the big secret of the bonding of the two. And that's what not only Plato knew, and it's in the traditions, Kepler knew it, then El-Nashi figures it out in his E-infinity theory, and he's twice nominated for the Nobel Prize. He's my co-author. And Ilya Prigogine, the great Nobel laureate, nominates him twice. And then, who is it, Gerd Binning, says this guy is unbelievable. I'll have to show you the remarks. It's incredible. He's able to deduce the masses of all the subatomic particles of what's called the standard model of quantum physics, a standard model. He can deduce all of those. It was unheard of. It's not supposed to be possible. And I mean, it's so much more.
So, okay. So for my audience, I want to make sure that they understand the golden section. So
Okay.
You're explaining it, and in a layman's terms, I see it as the rules or the infrastructure of this density or this dimension, where the geometric forms follow a path, follow an instruction. They're informed by the field to perform this way. But could you explain it so that everyone can understand?
Yeah,
Did that make sense anyway?
Yes. No, it does. And so you're going to take a magnitude or a line and you're going to cut it. Let's see if I can do this with this. And you're going to say, and this is Plato's, he presents this problem in the Republic. He says, take a line and cut it unevenly. You say, well, why unevenly? If you cut it in the middle, it's all about ratio. In the beginning was the Logos. In the beginning, John chapter 1, verse 1. Not just in there. It's, what does Logos mean in Greek? Yes, it means word, verbum, logic. It means ratio. It's the first ratio. When there's just the one, the source, there's no minniness. There's no stuff going on. When the scission occurs, and it can't be in the center, because if it's in the center, the whole would be to each of the parts, you'd say as 2:1. But the parts would be in the ratio of 1:1. Those are not equal. But the question is there a way you can cut a line, any magnitude, in such a way that the whole is to the longer segment? Oops, it doesn't. As the whole is to the longer segment. This is all backwards in here. That's why. As the longer is to the shorter. Let me do it a slightly different way, and I think this may help. Well, actually, let me do this. This is an old timer, and this, no matter how wide or how narrow it's opened, the distance between these 2 points here and these 2 points here are in golden ratio. So if you take the phalanges of the finger, and this is pretty dilapidated, but let's see if we can make it happen here. And you measure the bone. It's not the flesh. So you have to be very careful. I'm not cheating. It's the flesh. You flip it over. So from the distal phalange to the medial phalange, we should be able to get the medial phalange. Is that?
We need to pull back just a little bit.
Yes,
there we
yes,
go.
yes. Okay.
So that
I see what's happened. So we're going from the distal phalange. I see. Thank you, Kathy. To the medial phalange. And then if we open this to the medial phalange, we flip it over, we should be able to get to the proximal phalange, which is the sum of the previous two. It's all additive, and each new number is the previous number times the modular big phi, the golden ratio times it. Now, Fibonacci numbers, which many of your people will be familiar with, that begin 0 and 1, and each new number is the sum of the previous two. So it goes 0, 1, 1, 2, 3, 5, 8, 13, 21, 34, 55. Those numbers are exactly additive, just like these golden cuts. And you can fractalize this. You get smaller and larger, larger, larger. In fact, you go to this area here. The whole body is a set of harmonics like that. Gosh.
Well, I learned about that through Leonardo da Vinci, through his I forget what they call that.
The Da Vinci Code?
The Da Vinci Man.
Absolutely.
Right.
Oh, yeah, my...
there we go. There he is.
Yeah, that's done by Lance Harding, who now is kind of the expert on proportions, human proportions, different measurement systems of different countries and cultures. I did an incredible drawing like that. Yeah, the Da Vinci Man, exactly.
Yeah. So I want to ask, because I want to make sure that we show your websites and the artwork and everything. I want to ask, do you feel your out-of-body experience allowed you to realize that there was a bigger picture, right? That there was something more going on than just this. And
well,
yeah, okay, go ahead.
Well, absolutely. Now, what I didn't go further to tell you what happened even after that really, really brought it home.
Okay.
So my spontaneous out of body, and then subsequent, and my work at the University of Minnesota, and then the being taken out by this other being, all of those things are contributing to, oh my Lord, there is so much more going on. But then in 2005, I went into the rainforest, and I had been working with ayahuasca, which is probably not different from the kukion, or some people call it kykeon, that was used in the Eleusinian mysteries. They would drink that substance and they would go into this non-ordinary state of consciousness. Now, these are not for recreational purposes. This is nasty stuff that is very difficult, and if a person's not prepared, it can be really, really very difficult. It can be devastating because everything comes to the surface. Everything comes out. And fortunately, I had been doing the bodybuilding for years. And even though I had a severe injury to my back and I had to kind of curtail it, I still had the power there of all the yoga and the breathing and all the stuff that I did. So what happened was, in my third of 5 ayahuasca experiences, the third night, I went and I rang the bell. I went all the way. And and I was doing research. I'd already been selected to do the book. And so this is 2005, about September, October of 2005. And, but I'm showing how the golden ratio works. Now it's running through my body, everything. I'm connected to everything. So it was this magnificent, incredible stuff that I'd already researched. I knew, but not in the way I was being shown. And as a result, I was there in the rainforest another 5 days. I couldn't sleep. I just would lay in my tambo and I would come out of body, but fully alert, never losing consciousness at all. And I was actually being trained in how to land, et cetera, et cetera. I mean, it was way beyond what I'd done at the University of Minnesota years ago. And, but I remained awake for 19 days straight without any sleep whatsoever. Each day, it was actually, well, I shouldn't even tell you, 23 days, but twice I lost consciousness for about an hour on 2 days, but 19 days without any sleep whatsoever, reconnecting daily with what I would call the eternal now. You know, they talk about samadhi, they oftentimes leave the eternal now out. And I like to bring that concept back in, because when you go into these states of consciousness, and I'm not saying that I entered into samadhi. I'm not suggesting that. But what I am saying is I got to the threshold of these states of consciousness clearly, and I would reconnect on a daily basis for those 19 days. Drove my wife Pam up the wall because I would be up all night. It was just one partying in a sense, because I mean, it was just so exhilarating. But then to have these moments when you actually, time would stop and you realize, you know, the awesomeness of the whole thing. So yeah, that along with all the out of body experience, all of this is poured into, you know, my book, and then subsequently the Grand Unification. And the artwork was collected from the Amazon the many times I went down.
Let's show them first this website. Let me put it here. Can you see it? Your golden section.expert website.
Mm-hmm.
Can you see it? Okay. So here I want people to know, okay, because I did download some of your not here, but on another page, I was able to download some of your papers. But there's a plethora of information that can connect you to this concept and make it usable for you. This isn't, you don't have to have a PhD, right, to use it.
No. And you can click on some of the things, like on the big chart there. I believe it'll take you to more detailed information about things as well.
Which one? The publications?
I think on resonant states of the big chart below, as I recall, he had that animated. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, if you click on it, it should take you somewhere.
Nothing's happening, but let me go to your book link so that people can see. Okay, so we do get to talk to this in just a little bit. Let's see. Look at all this. It's amazing. This is for people that want a deep dive into making quantum physics usable to our everyday life, and understanding our real history, our real information from our past. It's a grand unification of the sciences, arts, seven, consciousness.
It should be an and ampersand there. I'm not sure how
okay, it's a seven.
That's okay. It's okay. Well, seven,
Okay.
you know, the septenary is so common. By the way, can I interject that?
Yeah.
So the physics part of the book, that's really Muhammad El-Nashi and two other physicists. El-Nashi and I wrote most of the book. El-Nashi writes the physics part. The other two authors had contributed to his work, Jiwan He and Lila Kranchik, from China and Slovenia, respectively. But he's the real physicist. And yes, you can get so much out of this, including the dark energy, dark matter. El-Nashi has knocked it out of the park. Unfortunately, he's passed now. But yeah, there's so much there. And then the philosophy and the other things, that's all my contribution.
Okay. Okay. So next I want to show the art site that you have that's just, and we'll go to the gallery. First, I'll show the front page. I love this. Come on, open up. Here we go. And this is you a few years ago.
That's when I first started collecting the artwork from Pablo Amaringo, who I'm with there. Yeah, that's back in 2000, I believe it is. And yeah, unfortunately, he's no longer with us, but he was the great ayahuasquero that is so famous that taught his youngsters, disadvantaged youngsters, gave them art materials and then took them into the rainforest to teach them. And so I've been collecting their artwork and his over the years. And yeah.
So I want to show some of this because anyone that's highly sensitive will feel the connection to these art pieces. They're quite magnificent. And there's a loving appreciation. They aren't fearful in any way. They're expanding you in a loving, safe way to nature. And so here's, I'll just scroll down so you can see they're just beautiful, Scott. And so,
well, so on that note, I am a collector. I have a huge collection, probably 250 pieces of artwork. And so I'm a collector looking for a gallery. And if somebody would like to set up a gallery where this would be preserved for posterity, that's my interest, not to just, aggrandize and collect for me. No, this is for humanity. And it's beautiful what they've done. So we have them. We also have the paintings before they started doing any type of ayahuasca or any other plant medicines, where they're just doing the artwork of nature itself. Those are also incredible. It's so nice to see, the whole development of these young people.
Isn't that wonderful? And you can really tell that they're looking at it from a different perspective. I mean, it's as an art historian, that was one of my degrees. I look for depth of field and all sorts of things, but there's a surreal sense to this, where it's out of this reality, like this one. Beautiful, just beautiful.
There's resonance throughout nature. Everything's alive and aware. At a level beyond what we really understand. And my take on it is we should be learning from the animals. When I went to the Galapagos Islands, I learned very quickly that the animals are in a state of peace and harmony because humans haven't gotten there to mess them up with the kind of idiotic thinking that we have now in our world. It's just so incredible. But the peacefulness is present. I could walk up to any of the animals. I could have touched them. You don't do that unless they touch you first. Walked up to a hawk. I could have pet the hawk. I mean, it's just incredible because we have not gotten there. Plus the sensory awareness in terms of our abilities all of our siddhis, our powers, our yogic powers, uh, the animals and plants, here to have that in spades, and we should be attuning to and learning from them.
Beautiful, beautiful. So I got to be on a beautiful walk in the mountains last weekend, and I was just standing there, just in awe of these trees. And all of a sudden, a hummingbird landed within maybe 10 inches of me, and it wasn't afraid of me. And that's never happened before. But you know that when you can get to that stillness where you're experiencing what they experience, then it's amazing. That's our future. That's the gift that we hopefully are sharing through the near-death experiencer community. And with that, is that all right if now I go to the IANDS so you could talk about participation?
Let me mention on the note you just read, let me just mention on a vision quest out in the Sonoma region with Ralph Metzner. No, actually, this was, well, it was in California, out in the desert. And it was a vision quest to find power animals. And so it was so interesting. And I had nothing. And I'm sitting there and getting a little disappointed. And up pops this salamander between my legs and sits there. And literally, I'm able to take a photograph, and I put my finger up as if I didn't touch his back, but as if I'm petting it just to show how close. Sometimes that happens. Nature will just open up, and it's our calmness. I think it's when we actually go into that kind of calm resonance that the animals and plants will respond likewise.
Mm-hmm. It's such a gift. It is such a gift. And that's our future. I still am very hopeful that humanity is going to come to its senses and choose the path of peace and harmony and equilibrium with what is, and choose a more spiritual path. And so that's why I'm so excited about learning from people like you and learning more about near-death experiences or spiritually transformative experiences like the ones I've had, so that we can all see the bigger picture, that we are all from the same source, where our individualization is a gift, not a fearful thing. It was by design, and that there's a bit of peace and love in each one of us, that it can be seen if you're looking for it. You can draw it out into the conversation. So with that, I'm going to show the IANDS presentation for you to explain your gift that you're sharing at this year's IANDS event, the conference that's coming up at the end of August. So, Scott, do you want to speak to this?
Sure. So let me first say, along the lines of what you were just saying, the kingdom of heaven is spread upon earth, but human beings do not see it. So we get that in the Gospel of Thomas. But it's so true that we've kind of blinded ourselves. So everything you were saying, Kathy, I'm just totally in accord with. So yeah, we have the very, very special IANDS event this year in Chicago. Takes me back to when I actually first met Edgar Mitchell, was at an IANDS, Institute of Noetic Science conference in 1994, I believe it was, in Chicago. So it'll be returning back there. And it's so nice that we're going to have Raymond Moody there. Many of these people, by the way, I have, like you, I've interviewed many of them. Let's see, you wanted me to talk about...
Well, I wanted you to give them a little insight into what you're going to be speaking about, and to remind people that if they can't come in person, that they could buy a ticket and do the live streaming. Because even if you are there in person, it's hard to see everything. You do feel the energy of the group. It's quite remarkable. It's magnificent. But you do get the same energy through your computer or television if you watch the live stream. So, but Scott, can you share a little bit about what you get to share about?
Absolutely. Let me just say, though, the live stream is one way also you can get, there are recording. I'm going to have to tell you, unfortunately, the room that I'm in, which I was a bit surprised because it is the amphitheater, is really nice, probably the best room to be speaking in. They aren't live streaming. So, yeah, I know it's unfortunate, but
well, maybe you get someone to record with their phone or something. So you should get. It's easy to get a smartphone and the audio will be good.
Well, and the conference will be recording it and making those available afterwards. So I'm on a group panel, a science panel, Spirit, Sound, and the Mathematical Beauty of the Cosmos. And I'm on the panel, my two friends on there, Sherry Pearl and Jessica Jack, they are more, well, we're going to be exploring, let me just read it out. What heard, felt, and seen in spiritually transformative experiences and beyond the veil encounters. So their specialties, Sherry is looking at electronic voice phenomena in particular. Distance healing, we're going to be looking at subtle energy fields, brainwave correlations, and more specifically for me, the underlying geometric patterns, resonances, and symmetries. So I will be showing the mathematical aspect of this, but in simplified terms, really with more images than otherwise. But this whole notion of connecting the spiritual, immaterial with the physical, that goes back to what I was saying about this golden cut that enfolds. The immaterial is not separate. The immaterial and the material are bonded together. They're enfolded, not just folding over, but they're actually infused with these principles that kind of merge into them and give us this beautiful. That's why nature is so beautiful, because it's actually operating under these very simple principles, but the mathematics of the beauty is there. It's golden. It's so incredible. So that's what I'm going to try to stress, to show how when there are these brainwave correlates to spiritual experiences, for example, that they're actually linked together. There's a bonding. It's not, we get so caught up with either it's all immaterial and it's all consciousness, and in a sense it kind of is, in a sense, but it's also physical, and it's not. Then we get into this dualistic aspect and we think there are two separate things. Well, during manifestation, they take on that appearance, but in reality, they're not. So everything that occurs here physically is interrelated to the spiritual, and we can connect. That's kind of my job in this particular event, is to try to show how that connection can take place. And it's in the mysteries where it's revealed, and that's where this primordial scission golden section comes in.
Oh, thank you so much. Well, I'm afraid we're out of time. We'll have to do this again because there's so much we could talk about, and it's so important to our evolution as an evolutionary species, the human species that the futurists have all told us we are going to be. And actually it was in the ancient knowledge as well that we have that capacity. We're on that journey. And I think this work that you do is very important to our understanding and our utilization of our multisensory capacity. So thank you so much, Scott. This was wonderful. Really appreciate you.
I want to thank you, Kathy, and say this about you. it's very clear to me what you're doing is the very work of the universe itself in making things happen. Thank you so much,
Thank
because
you.
I can tell from my heart that you are resonant with all of what's going on, and thank you for doing this for all of us. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yep.